Coming up on Network Africa, Christians around the world commemorate Good Friday, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and his death at Calvary. 8-year-old girl is the only survivor as 45 people are killed in South Africa bus crash. Plus, the UN calls for reopening of Sudan's border crossings for humanitarian purposes. Well, it's the start of the Easter weekend. Today is Good Friday. Christians all over the world, including Nigeria, are commemorating the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and his death at Calvary. It's a solemn day of reflection for believers who recognize the sacrifice made for the redemption of humankind. In countries around the world, churches hold special services, including processions, prayers, and readings for the Passion narrative to honor the events leading up to Jesus' crucifixion. In Nigeria, Good Friday is marked with reverence and solemnity by the Christian community, which constitutes a significant proportion of the population. Some churches participate in stations of the cross procession, retracing Jesus' final hours through prayers and meditation. The day is also observed through fasting and abstinence as believers reflect on the ultimate sacrifice made for their salvation. In a number of states, southeast Nigeria, Christian faithful are marking the essence of the death and passion of Christ. And at St. Peter's Anglican Parish, Amobia, the Anglican Bishop of Awka Diocese and Archbishop of the province of the Niger, Most Reverend Alexander Ibezim, congratulates Christians world over for being partakers of the redemption work of Jesus Christ and charges all to live lives of sacrifice. Similarly, the Deputy Governor of Anambra State says all Christians should reflect on the painful death of Christ and remain thankful to God. Other parishioners say Good Friday is the essence of Christianity.
Good Friday without humility, submission, and obedience to the total will of God means nothing. I call upon our nation to repent. Let there be national repentance from our leaders to the church to all our politicians, all the people that are serving. This is the time for us to repent.
Christ is God. That means God himself came down and died in a unique way, being crucified on the cross. And as Christians, we mark this day. It's a day of sober reflection. It's also a day of thanksgiving because God in human form came and sacrificed his life for all of us.
The death of Christ brings salvation unto us. So let's go out there, save the world, be good to people, and encourage the people, because that's what's all about Christianity. Christianity is about sacrifice. Let's sacrifice for one another and do a good deed. That's the essence of the death and resurrection of Christ.
To a tragic story, an 8-year-old girl is the only survivor of a bus crash in South Africa in which 45 people died. The bus plunged about 50 meters off a bridge on a mountain pass into a ravine, catching fire as it hit the ground in the northeastern Limpopo province. The passengers were pilgrims traveling from Gaborone, the capital of Botswana, to an Easter service in Moria. Authorities say 34 body bags have been taken from the scene, but only 9 bodies are identifiable. Former President Jacob Zuma has been barred from running in South Africa's general election in May by the country's Electoral Commission. Although the IEC has not given a reason for the ban, Mr. Zuma's 2021 conviction and jailing for contempt of court would appear to disqualify him. His backing of the new Umkhonto weSizwe party, the MK party, has been seen as a possible threat to the governing African National Congress, which has suspended Mr. Zuma. The ANC the ANC had wanted South Africa's electoral body to register the MK, but that request was rejected on Tuesday. The 81-year-old served as president from 2009 until 2018, when he had to step down because of corruption allegations. Let's get more on this story. Innocent Samosa, our correspondent in South Africa, joins us now. Good to see you today, Innocent. Right, so a tragic incident this Easter holiday. What more can you tell us about the crash, especially what authorities are saying is the cause? Right, Innocent, I asked, what's tragic incident, happened this Easter holiday, the weekend of Easter. What more can you tell us about the crash, especially, what authorities say may likely have been the cause?
Indeed, Joge. Indeed, it's a tragic event, very debilitating to say the least. I mean, it's also important to remind our viewers that during this period last year, 41 people died, and now we're having to see 45 people losing their lives, and this is the first day of the 4-day long weekend of Easter. It's quite disappointing. It's really heartbreaking to see that event. I mean, it's a very tragic incident, and we are told, it is believed that the driver lost control of the bus. Colliding with barriers on the bridge, catching fire when it hit the ground. We're also told that it plummeted about 50 meters. That just tells you the veracity of the impact there. But the rescue workers have been working since yesterday to really recover some bodies. We're told that some bodies were bent beyond recognition. Some, of course, scattered on the scene, and some were trapped in the debris. So it was just it's really a difficult scene to comprehend, Joke. But we do know, as you rightly indicated, that 34 bodies recovered, only 9 identifiable. That just goes to tell you that there's really people really they can't recognize some of the bodies at this point in time. I guess they're trying to really recover everybody so that the repatriation process can take place. But a very tragic incident there in Limpopo province, Joge.
Right, and what's the status of the little girl who's the sole survivor of this accident?
Well, we're told by Limpopo Transport Community Safety, that is Florence Rezelane, she has confirmed that essentially there were 46 people on board, including the driver. The only survivor is the 8-year-old child, as you rightly alluded to. We do know that she's receiving medical attention in Mama Takala hospital right there in Limpopo province. We don't know her condition as yet, but we do know for now that she's receiving medical attention. She's the only survivor in that particular incident, Joge.
Right, and so, other victims are said to be pilgrims traveling, to neighboring Botswana. Will their bodies be repatriated, or what's the government going to do?
Indeed, they were traveling from Botswana to Zion Christian Church. This is one of the biggest churches in the region, and they are gathering for the first time, okay, since COVID-19 pandemic. Because of social distancing, they could not gather, but they saw it fitting, since the reason the regulations have been eased, so they saw it fitting for them to gather. We don't know yet how the repatriation process is going to take place. We have not heard from the presidency. We have not heard from the Department of International Relations. But I guess for now, they want to recover all the bodies so that they can start with the repatriation process. But I can tell you that it's going to be a tedious process. That's why I guess the government is taking time so that they can, somewhat calibrate and find a way that is suitable to really give these people a dignified repatriation process, Joke.
Right, and I can tell even from where I sit how, tall that bridge is, a frightening height, I must say. Have you had any such incidents, on that road before?
Yeah, 100%, Joke. In fact, during this Easter period and December period, the N1 to Limpopo province is always a challenge. In fact, it's always on the news with incidents of accidents, but also the government. I know that they've put up boards to actually caution the drivers that this is a high accident zone, so people should drive with caution. But I think also the issues of drink and driving comes to play. The issues of people really driving, tired, fatigue. They don't want to rest. The person can drive for 8 hours nonstop. So those are some of the challenges that really we find ourselves. This is one of the road that also leads to Zimbabwe. So it's always packed during holiday seasons. So but we've never expected that we will basically lose this number of people, particularly in the beginning of this long weekend Easter, holidays period, Joke.
Right, and let's deviate and talk about, former President Jacob Zuma. He has been banned from the elections in May. We understand he was also in an accident.
Yeah, indeed. Reports suggest that he was traveling from his homestead in Nkandla. He was going to Eshowe. This is where he was going to basically run a campaign. As you would know, that political party leaders have been working around the clock with campaigns leading to the 29th of May, where South Africans will be going to the polls. So he was going there for a campaign, and were told by his spokesperson, the spokesperson of the party, of the Mkhonto weSizwe party, that in that convoy, they believe that the former President Jacob Zuma's car was essentially targeted. But we don't know how they arrived to that, but they're also blaming the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele. They're saying that he failed over the years to beef up the security detail of former President Jacob Zuma. They believe that it's quite porous. People can breach it easily. So they believe that he has not given a better service in that front. But the ANC responded saying that if anything, former President Jacob Zuma is one of the highly guarded president in the country. What the MK party is essentially saying is quite disingenuous. But we do know, Joke, that he is well. We don't know whether he's in Nkandla or he's at hospital receiving medical attention, but we're told that he is actually fine. No major injuries were essentially reported in that particular accident, Joke.
Right, thank God for that. And of course, our hearts and prayers are with the families of those who lost their lives in that horrific bus accident in South Africa. Innocent, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, colleague.
And still ahead on the program, our Africa Tech segment is empowering female entrepreneurs in Nigeria. You stay with us for details. Welcome back. The chairman of Nigeria's Senate Committee on Diaspora Affairs, Senator Victor Ume, says the Central Bank of Nigeria's latest decision to hike rates demonstrate a proactive approach to managing economic stability and fostering growth. In an exclusive interview with Channels Television, Mr. Ume says the bank is instilling confidence in investors and businesses, which could lead to increased investment and job creation. Additionally, he urges the Nigerian community to practice patience. He was speaking to our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, at the Nigerian consulate in Johannesburg.
Yes, Nigeria is undergoing a lot of economic reforms now. The present administration is working assiduously with the National Assembly to put in place policies that will turn our economy around and position the country very strongly on the way to development. There are so much anxieties, food insecurity, hunger and the rest of it. But the government is tackling these things head on with a combination of factors. The CBN is fashioning a lot of physical policies that are aimed to stem the tide, so that the spiral inflation that we're having and the soaring interest rates, and so on and so forth, will be taken care of in a manner that business can thrive, economic activities can thrive, manufacturing activities can thrive, agricultural activities can thrive, because unless the country begins to produce the things they need, they will rely on importation of all these items. So these are things that are noble policies, and we believe that with the perseverance and the patience, we'll be able to get the country back on track again.
Just before I let you go, if I hear you correctly, you're saying that citizens should be patient. It's a process that CBN is actually embarking on. But what message do you have for those who feel like they're running out of patience because things are difficult? What message do you have, be it in the diaspora, because there are remittances that goes into the country also?
Well, their remittances don't go to the government. You know that those they contribute to the inflow of external funds into the country, which we are very happy about. And that is why when I came here, I insisted that I must see our people that are living here and encourage them and thank them on the issue of patience. There is no substitute to patience. We must be patient. People who run out of patience will get on the wrong side, so you must keep hope alive. Reforms come with a lot of disruptions. The old ways of doing things must give way, so that we'll try new things. It will be painful from the beginning, like the oil subsidy, which Mr. President rightly removed on the 29th of May last year. Is gripping with its challenges, over time. But you can see that we are getting used to it. And hope is by the corner, because very soon the major refinery we have in Nigeria will come back on stream, the Port Harcourt refinery.
Chairman, Senate Committee on Diaspora Affairs, Senator Victor Ume, speaking with our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, in Johannesburg. Let's move on. The U.S. is calling on the Sudanese armed forces to reopen all border crossings with Chad for humanitarian purposes, including the Adre border crossing. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, and U.S. Special Envoy for Sudan, Tom Perello, addressed reporters at the UN headquarters to discuss the issue. Mr. Perello says as Sudan heads into the rainy season, conditions could get even worse.
A few weeks ago, the Council came together to adopt a resolution calling for a Ramadan ceasefire. That resolution has thus far been ignored. Nearly a year since this crisis began, the situation in Sudan remains catastrophic, and it is only getting worse. And so we once again call for the SAF to immediately and fully reopen all of its border crossings with Chad for humanitarian purposes, including the Adre border crossing. Should they not, the Security Council must take swift action to ensure life-saving aid is delivered and distributed, including, if necessary, through a cross-border mechanism. People are starving, and it is really important that we not forget them. They need as much attention as we're paying to crises everywhere else in the world.
And as we head into into the rainy season, where conditions could get even worse, now is not the time to pause. Now is not the time to escalate. It is the time for us to bring together those actors who can help pave that path to peace, to humanitarian protection and access.
Finally on the program and on our Africa Tech segment, an initiative dedicated to empowering female entrepreneurs is providing them with the tailored support needed to thrive in their respective industries. At the AfriLabs Rev Up Women Initiative, the spotlight is on women-led startups as they share stories to inspire one another.
The investor is moving with the money.
It's a vibrant gathering of female visionaries, entrepreneurs, and change makers all coming together for the AfriLabs Rev Up Women Initiative Business Showcase, a program dedicated to propelling women-led startups and SMEs to new heights.
And she'll be giving us the welcome address.
But they're not just celebrating businesses, they are also celebrating the incredible women behind them.
We're looking at the report on investment in 2022, and we're very excited. Oh my God, $4 billion, that was invested into African startups. Well, let's look at the women numbers. And they were like 3% only, of that number that was women, like the investment that was given to women. That is a challenge. We are women, we're in the ecosystem. And the interesting thing is that, when I go to meetings, we're in the tech space, right? Almost 80% of my meetings are filled with women. Women are actively working, setting up these programs, but the women businesses are suffering. So we thought of setting up a program that does two things, right? One is to build the capacity of women to be able to set up their businesses, their structure to function as a woman, but most importantly, unlock financing for women.
You're very, very, very welcome. The women also receive a dose of motivation from a leading entrepreneur who highlights the importance of investing in women.
Despite the incredible potential and talents that women possess, we are still facing significant challenges in accessing resources and opportunities, some of which are limited access to capital, technology, and business support, as well as gender discrimination and lack of support networks. Our inability to take full advantage of networking opportunities due to perceived cultural biases and restrictions is another factor that greatly hinders our success. Yet, in spite of this, female-led startups in Africa are not only as profitable, if not more, than male-led startups, but also drive women's empowerment and positive social impact on the continent. So closing the gender gap and empowering women-owned businesses will play a pivotal role in shaping a more vibrant and equitable society in Africa and across the globe.
From a riveting panel discussion titled Trailblazing Women, Navigating Challenges and Triumphs, inspiring stories are shared, stirring the women in the room.
Inclusion looks to me like a coming together, where when we really want accelerated progress, we have to be builders, and not just builders on that scale of nano and small micro businesses, but builders on the scale of bigger institutions and bigger corporates, so that we can really influence and drive change. And that, of course, looks like a coming together, where we bring the skill sets of generations, the skill sets of the different life cycles of our businesses, and of course, the ideas and variants of industry to come together and really build sustainable businesses.
When you ask me what economic inclusion and empowerment looks like for women, it will be doing this with 10,000 women. It will be teaching them to start a business. It will be teaching them to make that business make money. It will be teaching them to put in the structures so that it will make money for them in the long term. It will be teaching them that when you've made the initial money, you invest it in something that continues to make more money for you.
And so we have to be very intentional about shouting about women's successes, women's failing forward. I don't think failure is the end of things. I think failure actually sets you up for the success and the bigger successes that we can get. So we need to shout about, I keep saying you could find somebody in this room who has the cure for cancer, but if they don't shout about it, then the cancer remains uncured, right? So we need to really shout about the successes that we have so that another person who didn't think that their story could lead to a success can see themselves in you.
As the spotlight shines bright on these entrepreneurs, the aim is to let their achievements serve as a beacon of hope for future generations of women entrepreneurs.
That's Network Africa today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.